Hey YNR fans! Waving hand, welcome to YNR Trends, your go-to spot for the juiciest Young and the Restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama you can't stop talking about. From surprise returns to scandalous twists, we break it all down for you, every day. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. Claire had been pacing the floor of her small apartment for hours, her heart thudding with a rhythm that refused to slow down no matter how deeply she tried to breathe. Every time she told herself she could wait a little longer, that the truth could stay buried just one more day, another wave of guilt would slam into her chest until she could barely stand it anymore. She had spent months carefully holding together the fragile web of lies and half-truths that kept her connected to the Newman family, but the weight of what she carried was unbearable now. She wasn't just protecting herself, she was protecting people who deserved to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Claire had learned to live with secrecy her whole life, but this time, the stakes were too high. Too many lives had been entangled, and if she stayed silent any longer, she feared the damage would spread beyond repair. The thought of Victoria haunted her the most. Victoria Newman had opened her heart in ways Claire never expected. There were moments when Claire saw genuine love in her eyes, moments when she felt like she was finally more than just an outsider looking in. But Claire also knew that love could turn into rage the second betrayal revealed itself. And what Claire was about to confess wasn't a small misunderstanding, it was a storm that could shatter Victoria's carefully built world. The Newmans were powerful, passionate, and fiercely loyal to one another, but they were also volatile, and Victoria especially had always lived on a knife's edge between strength and fragility. Telling her the whole truth might not just upset her, it might push her over the edge. Claire thought about her childhood, about all the years when lies were normal, when manipulation felt like survival. Jordan had twisted her world so tightly that Claire couldn't separate love from control, loyalty from fear. For so long, she believed Jordan's words, that the Newmans were dangerous, that she didn't belong, that she needed to stay hidden. But after stepping into Genoa City, after meeting her real family and feeling something genuine for the first time, she realized how much had been stolen from her. Still, how do you admit to the very people you've longed to know that you've deceived them, even if part of it wasn't your fault? How do you tell Victoria, the woman who tried to give you a second chance, that the shadows of your past still linger and might even threaten her? As the sun began to rise outside her window, Claire felt the moment coming closer. She rehearsed the words in her mind, whispering them to herself like a secret prayer. She imagined Victoria's face, the initial shock, the anger that would follow, and maybe, just maybe, the flicker of understanding if she was lucky enough to earn it. Claire knew she couldn't control Victoria's reaction, but she also couldn't keep the truth hidden anymore. The truth had a way of clawing its way out, and if she wasn't the one to release it, someone else would, and it would be far worse. When she finally left her apartment, every step toward Newman Enterprises felt heavier than the last. The towering building seemed colder than usual, its glass walls reflecting the morning light with a sharpness that cut into her. The security guard gave her a polite nod as she passed, but even that small moment made her throat tighten. Everyone here believed she was slowly finding her place, slowly shedding the darkness of her past. No one was ready for what she was about to reveal, least of all Victoria. Inside Victoria's office, the air was thick with tension even before Claire spoke a single word. Victoria had been flipping through papers, but the moment she saw Claire, she stopped, her eyes narrowing with curiosity and a hint of concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Victoria said softly, setting the papers aside. Claire swallowed hard, her voice trembling as she replied, "It feels that way. I need to tell you something, and once I do, things might never be the same." Victoria leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms in that way she always did when preparing herself for bad news. She studied Claire's face carefully, almost like she was bracing for betrayal before it even came. Claire wanted to run, to take it all back, but the dam inside her had already cracked. "I haven't been completely honest with you," Claire confessed, her eyes brimming with tears. "There are things about Jordan, about what she did, about what I did, that I've never told you. And if I don't say it now, it's going to destroy everything." The silence that followed was suffocating. Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line, her jaw tightening as she waited. Claire could see the storm building in her, the way her eyes darkened with suspicion. "Go on," Victoria finally said, her voice low but edged with steel. Claire's voice shook as she continued, "Jordan made me believe things that weren't true. She twisted me, used me to get to you and your family. And even after she was gone, I still carried her voice in my head, still felt like I was living in her shadow. I told myself I was free, but the truth is, I've still been keeping things from you. I didn't tell you everything about what she planned, about what I knew, because I was scared that if you saw all of me, you wouldn't want me in your life." Victoria's face was unreadable now, but her hands had curled into fists on the desk. Claire could see the betrayal seeping through, even if Victoria tried to mask it with her usual stoicism. "So what exactly are you saying, Claire?" she asked sharply. "That you've been lying this whole time? That everything you told me about wanting a relationship, about wanting to be part of this family, it was all just another manipulation?" Claire shook her head desperately, tears spilling over. "No. That part is real. I swear it's real. I want to be part of this family more than anything, but I didn't know how to give you the whole truth without losing it all. I thought I was protecting both of us, but now I realize I've just been protecting my own fear." For a long moment, Victoria said nothing. The silence stretched between them like a chasm, and Claire felt herself teetering on the edge of it. She imagined the worst, that Victoria would throw her out, cut her off completely, and let her sink back into the isolation she had always known. But then Victoria stood, slowly circling the desk, her eyes never leaving Claire's. When she stopped just inches away, Claire could see the fury and the heartbreak warring inside her. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" Victoria whispered, her voice shaking now. "I opened my heart to you. I defended you to everyone. I told myself you were worth the risk, that you were worth the pain of reopening old wounds. And now you're standing here telling me I was wrong? That I was just another pawn in Jordan's game?" Claire wanted to fall to her knees, to beg for forgiveness, but she knew words wouldn't be enough. "You weren't wrong," she said firmly, even through her tears. "Jordan may have used me, but you, what I feel for you, what I want with you, that's mine. That's real. I came here today because I don't want to hide anymore. I'd rather lose you with the truth than keep you with a lie." Victoria's breath caught, and for a brief second, Claire thought she saw something soften in her eyes. But just as quickly, the hardness returned, and Victoria stepped back, her expression unreadable once again. "Be careful what you wish for, Claire," she said coldly. "Because the truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it destroys everything." The intricate and ever-shifting landscape of Genoa City is perpetually defined by secrets, half-truths, and outright deceptions, each one a carefully placed stone in the foundation of relationships both personal and professional. Within this complex web, few secrets have carried the weight, the potential for devastation, and the sheer dramatic force as the one concerning the paternity of Claire Grace's child. The decision by Claire to finally, and fully, embrace a policy of radical honesty, to lay bare the entire unvarnished truth to the one person it will impact most profoundly, Victoria Newman, is not merely a plot point, it is a seismic event that threatens to unravel the very fabric of multiple lives. The question of whether this confession will cause Victoria to go crazy is not one of simple melodrama but a nuanced exploration of trauma, identity, maternal instinct, and the fragile architecture of a mind that has endured more than its share of profound shocks. To understand the potential impact on Victoria, one must first fully appreciate the depth of the betrayal and the bizarre, almost gothic, circumstances that have led to this moment. Claire, initially introduced as a mysterious and troubled figure, was revealed to be the daughter of Victoria's longtime, vengeful doppelganger, Eve Howard, and Cole Howard, Victoria's first great love. This already shocking revelation was merely the prelude to the true bombshell, that Claire had given birth to a son, and that the father was not some unknown man from her past, but Victoria's own brother, Johnny Abbott. The circumstances of this conception are critical. It was not a consensual relationship born of love or even mutual attraction. It was, rather, a calculated and deeply disturbing act of manipulation orchestrated by Jordan, Claire's aunt, who had raised her with a pathological hatred for the Newman family. Johnny, vulnerable and struggling, was essentially preyed upon, his sperm stolen and used to impregnate Claire without his full knowledge or consent. This fact transforms the secret from a mere familial scandal into a profound violation, a crime that implicates Claire, however much a victim she herself was of Jordan's machinations. Victoria's world has been built upon a foundation of control. As the heir apparent to Newman Enterprises, she has been groomed to command, to manage, to project an image of unflappable competence and strength. This external armor, however, has often shielded a deeply emotional and passionate core, one that has been bruised and broken repeatedly, particularly in matters of the heart and family. Her history with Cole is a tapestry of intense love, betrayal, and loss. The disappearance and presumed death of their daughter, Eve, left a wound that never truly healed. The arrival of Claire, initially believed to be that lost daughter, opened that wound anew, only to salt it with the even more twisted reality of her true origins. Victoria's journey toward accepting Claire, toward forging a new, maternal-like bond with her, represents one of the most significant emotional evolutions of her character. It was a hard-won victory over cynicism and pain, a choice to love in the face of extraordinary complication. This hard-won bond is the precarious platform upon which Claire's confession will land. Victoria's acceptance of Claire was predicated on a specific narrative, that Claire was a victim, a pawn in Jordan's game, and that her past actions, while harmful, were born of manipulation and a desperate desire for belonging. This narrative allowed Victoria to compartmentalize. She could extend sympathy and forgiveness to Claire as a fellow victim of the same monstrous force. However, the truth about her son, Johnny, and his role in fathering Claire's child, shatters that narrative completely. It forces a horrific recalibration of Victoria's understanding of recent events. The violation is no longer abstract, it is direct, visceral, and aimed at her immediate family unit. It implicates Claire not just as a victim, but as an active participant in a scheme that victimized her own brother. Even if Claire was unaware at the time, which seems likely, the sheer grotesquerie of the act is enough to overwhelm any previous goodwill. The question of going crazy is therefore less about a clinical diagnosis and more about the complete disintegration of Victoria's carefully constructed emotional and psychological defenses. The potential reactions are multifaceted and could manifest in a terrifying cascade. Initially, there would likely be a state of pure, unadulterated shock. The human mind, when confronted with a truth too horrific to immediately process, often short-circuits. Victoria might display a terrifying calm, a numbed silence that is more alarming than any outburst. This dissociative state is a protective mechanism, a way for the psyche to buy time before confronting the full, horrifying reality. This quiet would be the eye of the hurricane, a deceptive pause before the storm of rage and grief makes landfall. When the reaction does come, it would be volcanic. Victoria Newman is not a woman who suffers betrayal quietly. Her rage would be epic, all-consuming, and directed at multiple targets. Jordan, the architect of this nightmare, would be the primary focus of her wrath, but Jordan is absent, a lurking threat rather than a present target. This would leave Claire squarely in the line of fire. All the trust, the nascent love, the belief in Claire's redemption would evaporate in an instant, replaced by a bitter, burning sense of betrayal. Victoria would likely feel like the ultimate fool, having opened her heart and her home to the woman who, however indirectly, facilitated the ultimate violation of her brother. The language she would use would be brutal, laced with a venom she has perhaps not unleashed since her battles with Ashland Locke or J.T. Hellstrom. She would eviscerate Claire with words, seeking to inflict a fraction of the pain she herself is feeling. Concurrently, a deep, primal grief would take hold. This is not just grief for the violation of Johnny, but grief for the loss of the future she had begun to imagine. The image of a unified family, with Claire as a redeemed and integrated member, would be annihilated. The grandchild she might have someday hoped to cherish from Claire would now be a permanent symbol of a horrific act. This grief would be compounded by a ferocious maternal protectiveness toward Johnny. Johnny Abbott is her brother, but their significant age difference and her own strong, sometimes overbearing, nature have often cast her in a quasi-maternal role toward him. Learning that he was used in such a vile, inhuman way would trigger every single one of her protective instincts. Her focus would instantly shift from Claire's well-being to Johnny's, and her actions would become solely focused on shielding him from this horrifying truth and its repercussions. The idea that he might have to bear the psychological weight of this, that he is a father without having chosen to be, that his biological material was stolen, would be a source of immense anguish for Victoria. This is where the potential for a true break from reality could occur. If Victoria perceives that Johnny is not being protected, or if the truth were to somehow become public and expose him to ridicule or pain, her actions could become increasingly erratic and desperate. She might resort to extreme measures to suppress the truth, threatening anyone who knows about it, including Claire. She could become paranoid, seeing Jordan's manipulation in every shadow, believing that the entire world is conspiring to hurt her family. Her behavior at Newman Enterprises could become tyrannical and unpredictable, as she attempts to exert control in her professional life to compensate for the utter chaos in her personal one. This descent would not be a sudden, cartoonish going crazy, but a tragic, gradual unraveling of a powerful woman brought to her knees by an unimaginable trauma. Furthermore, this confession would irrevocably poison the well for any future relationship between Claire and the Newmans. Nikki, Victoria's mother, who has only recently and reluctantly accepted Claire, would immediately revert to her deepest suspicions, seeing Claire not as a victim but as a permanent contaminant, a living reminder of Jordan's evil and a direct threat to her children. Victor Newman, the patriarch who operates on a calculus of family above all else, would likely see Claire as a problem to be solved, perhaps permanently. He would move to protect Victoria and Johnny with ruthless efficiency, and Claire would find herself exiled not just from Victoria's heart, but from the entire family ecosystem, perhaps even from Genoa City itself. Nate, Victoria's current partner, would be placed in an impossible position, trying to be her anchor while likely sharing in her horror and struggling to understand how to help someone processing a pain so unique and profound. For Claire, the act of telling the whole truth is a crucial step in her own redemption arc. It is the ultimate gamble for authenticity, a belief that only by confronting the darkest parts of her past can she hope to build a genuine future. She must know the cataclysmic risk she is taking. She is betting her entire fledgling place in the world on the hope that Victoria's capacity for forgiveness is bottomless. But this is a truth that borders on the unforgivable. Even if Victoria could, with time and immense therapy, eventually understand that Claire was as much a pawn as Johnny was, the emotional hurdle may be too high to ever truly overcome. The image is too graphic, the violation too intimate. Claire's confession, while morally right, could be an act of self-immolation, destroying the very thing she wants most, a family. In the end, the trajectory of Victoria's sanity hinges on her support system and her own core resilience. The love of her children, Katie and Reed, the steadfast presence of Nate, and even the notoriously formidable support of Victor and Nikki could provide a lifeline. Yet, this particular trauma strikes at the very core of her identities as a sister, a protector, and a woman who believed she had finally conquered the ghosts of her past. The revelation that the past is not just alive but has actively and violently invaded the present through the creation of a new life is a paradox that could overwhelm even the strongest mind. Victoria may not go crazy in a straitjacket sense, but she will be fundamentally and permanently altered. The trusting, hopeful aspect of her that allowed Claire in will be cauterized shut. She may become harder, colder, more like the corporate warrior she is often accused of being, using control and domination as a bulwark against ever feeling this vulnerable again. The truth, in Genoa City, is rarely a liberator, it is a weapon of mass destruction. And Claire's decision to wield it, however noble her intentions, may leave Victoria's emotional landscape and their potential relationship in permanent ruins.